Here's something that this video's Concord players are very mad at Marvel Rivals, which I didn't even realize there were Concord players at this point. I didn't think anybody fucking bought that game. When it comes to Concord versus Marvel Rivals, I just think it's obviously what one people are going to pick. Like, one has really hot female characters and like really badass looking guy characters, and the other had the most boring, bland people ever. It didn't matter how good that game's gameplay was. When you're paying $40 and it's a hero shooter and none of the heroes look interesting, no one's going to play that game. And of course, the players who did buy it feel like they were gypped, feel like they got nothing, feel like they're sitting in this little world of sadness, because that's what happens at the end of the day when you have something that's super uninspired and completely boring because you're trying to make people happy that don't buy games. And I have a problem with a lot of this this ideology of, oh, we got to make everything like, we got to make a bunch of fat people and we got to make everybody like this and that, and then white people suck. It's like, it is a bad idea. It's a bad way to go about things. It's just such a stupid thing to do. But and I know in the past I have been on the side where it's like, oh, you just see ugly female character and you're like, oh, instantly woke. Yeah, that's bad. But when like every character like Concord was, and then it's just uninspired on top of that these things stack on top of each other, you know? And I usually wait till the game comes out before I will make a type of statement on this. So when Concord dropped, and instantly I saw kind of like the gameplay looked okay, but kind of uninspired. Then the character models, it's a hero shooter, and when none of them look appealing, why would I play that game? And then on top of that, it just like felt virtue signaling. Like, the characters were so unappealing to the point they felt virtue signaling. And it's like, dude, I'm not here to get lectured.
As you may know, some of the modern audience types have been very upset at Marvel Rivals. And I recently saw that Concord players, yet believe it or not, there's actual Concord players that exist. And they're also very upset at Marvel Rivals. Of course, there's probably a crossover between the modern audience types and Concord players. And we'll get to all that in just a minute. Let's start here, though, with a little history. 8 months ago, this post on Our Girl Gamers.
Well, here's the thing, too. Where the modern audiences, these are the type of people who are actually IGN's, like, reader base. These are the type of people who, like, actually believe that Kotaku is an actual news website and not just garbage shill, lamestream media crap. There's a difference between those people who spurg out about DEI and stuff on the internet, and then there's those people that are actually like hyper fixated. I mean, that hyper fixation on DEI goes both ways. And the people like Concord, they see all these IGN articles about how did it fail, why, and because they do not bring up the fact that the characters are unappealing, that the game is unappealing. They sit there and they try to shill for the big company. And then when a game like Marvel Rivals comes out and makes every statement they made about hero shooters being dead, all of their soy ass fucking responses of how, oh, well, we try to bring a hero shooter out in today's market and modern audiences don't want that. That's just not true. That's completely invalid. When you bring a game out that looks sick, has great character models, people want to play it.
Titled, Can We Just Throw Some Backlash at Marvel Rivals? I love how they gave it a serious flair. That just makes it more funny. I've been on the fence so long with Overwatch for years. It has diverse male body types, and then female characters are copy-paste with a bare handful of diversity, and these diverse female characters are given such a little amount of attention in cosmetics that it's clear they don't care for them.
Well, they don't. They don't fucking care for them. They put them in to appease you guys, but nobody actually plays as them, and nobody buys skins for them. That is going to be an issue. And this is just like, this is where you get into the realm of reality. The realm of reality is, it's like, this is why I get mad at the people who fucking complain about like, oh, well, just black girl in game, we're going to get mad. People don't care about that. People see that and they don't care. You're in the realm of reality that you think everybody else is thinking about this DAI shit as you. But then you go to the opposite end of the spectrum where they're like, why aren't they making shit? Well, because nobody fucking plays as them. You guys talk about them. You talk about them because it's like, oh, they put a fat black chick in. They put a gay guy in. And it's like nobody actually fucking plays as these characters because you're going to this small fucking install base of people that you're virtue signaling to, and then nobody's going to play as them because they don't care. They're not the majority of normal fucking people who don't care about this online shit do not give a fuck about that. They just don't care. They see something, oh, looks cool, I'm going to play. Oh, the characters look hot, I'm going to play. Oh, that guy, that's how I used to read the 90s Punisher comics. That's how Punisher looks in this game. I'm going to play it. That's why I played it. The Punisher looked cool. That was it.
I'm watching Marvel Rivals go down the same path. The female characters are all tall, slim, and busty, with a good deal of skin, while the male characters are fully covered, minus Hulk and the Fishman. Namor. It's so clear that they only just care for straight male gamers.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made.
And that's not what they just care about. They cared about, like, they looked at the comics and said, how can we make these kind of comically, not comically artistic, more artistically designed to be like the comic book characters, and also like put something else that's cool. They did that. Accomplished. Win. It's a win. Everything, almost every character in Marvel Rivals looks freaking cool. Looks like something that I read in a 90s comic book. Back when like comic books were actually fun to read, when they were over the top and awesome. Like if I had to pick an art style from the like US art style that I think is better than even like anime or anything else, I would go 90s comics art. Now the stories weren't like always that good. I don't know like every single story, but how it bleeded out into the 2000s, and it was like these over the top badass looking heroes that just like, you look at like the 90s X-Men show, that is like peak fucking like art style. And you see a game that actually adheres to that and shows like this old art style that we don't have anymore. It's cool, dude. Like I don't understand these people that like don't understand the reality of the world. People who like the comics see this and they want to play it. That's why people didn't play fucking Marvel's Avengers, because it looked boring and sloppy.
At this point, it's just a slap in the face. They know what they're doing. It's disappointing since the MCU did such a good job making women less objectified. Fans of the MCU will be playing this game. Very few people read the comics in comparison, making it accurate for them as a joke. Oh my gosh, that's gotta be one of the most pathetic things I've ever heard. They need to appeal to MCU fans only. Forget the comic fans. Don't make things accurate for them. As if there would even be an MCU without the original comics. And they end the post by saying, can we just start making noise on these issues? You know what? That's also one of the lamest things I've ever heard.
Here's the thing, too. I actually had this discussion with somebody about Umbrella Academy and how, like, you can tell where they deferred really bad on Umbrella Academy. I'm not even going to get into, like, all the political drama that jumps into that. But there was a certain actor who went from actress to actor, and then all of a sudden the next season's revolving and talking about it. Like, there's, like, 3 episodes right at the beginning. Or I didn't watch past, like, 3 episodes, but they like, bring it up again and again and again. And now it's, like, a thing because, like, it's not, they had to change the character from the comics to adhere to this actor, and now it's like a thing, and it's annoying as fuck, dude, because it's like, and then like people are like, well, why does it matter? I think you care about it too much. It's like, yeah, but if your favorite novel was taken and then just shit on, you would be mad. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess I see it from that perspective. It's like you take these comic book characters and then shit on everything that they had, and like all the original stories don't matter, and you just make up whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, people are gonna be annoyed. And I know that when it comes to like the Marvel superheroes, there's so many different iterations of each of these characters that it can be pretty hard to just create the story, like follow one comic line, just follow one comic line completely. But when it's a story like Hellboy and stuff, and they didn't even try to create any of the Hellboy stuff, I can understand Hellboy fans not liking the Hellboy movies, because they took their favorite story, a story that actually has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then said, nah, we're just going to do whatever. We're going to make it Hellboy meets Men in Black. I can understand why they don't like it, and I can understand why people who used to like the first our first couple seasons of Umbrella Academy were like, we're getting our characters, and then not getting our characters. I can understand being mad about that. And sometimes they do it better. Sometimes, like The Boys, I've only seen the first 3 seasons of The Boys, but The Boys, for the most part, did it way better than the comics. The comic sucks, dude.
Who talks like that? We need to make noise. Can we make noise on this? And what's their noise supposed to do anyways? Like, wow, some unhinged people on Reddit are mad. Yeah, I'm sure NetEase is really going to care about that. I feel like I just waited a decade for my dream Marvel game, and now it's pretty much implied that this game isn't for me. Well, that sounds like great news for everyone else. Imagine being stuck in a lobby with someone like that. The most upvoted comment in that thread says, "Consider my noise added to yours. Just tell me where to direct it." Another top comment said,
Dude, the 30 upvotes they got is the entire Concord like download base. That was like, they were like, we made it at launch. It was 30 people on Steam.
yeah, who would have thought that League of Legends did it best? It's so weird. We've had AAA games with diverse women for ages, and here we are, 5 steps backwards from that. And then people would argue about League of Legends also being problematic. So yeah, I just thought that was all pretty funny. Hope you enjoyed that one too. Aside from the brain rot stuff. And now on to more current posts from only 3 days ago on the subreddit for Concord. The post titled, "Any Concord fans try Rivals yet? I'm curious what impressions the fans of Concord have about Marvel Rivals. I'm considering giving it a try, but Concord holds a special place in my heart."
How does it hold a special place in your heart when it was literally out for like a fucking week? This game died so fast. It died faster than, I don't know, just living. It barely even lived. It was dead on arrival. It had no chance. It was still birthed. It is garbage. And then everybody's like fucking out here like, oh, dude, how can I play Marvel Rivals when I have such a soft place in my heart for Concord? Dude, you played it for like fucking 3 days. You had that lore in your head of, I spent money on this, so I gotta like it. And now that you've been refunded your money, you're sitting here like, well, now I want to play it because I convinced myself into liking it. There is nothing there. So yeah, dude, play Marvel Rivals. At least it's a better game.
Art, and I'm hoping Rivals shares similar qualities. And the OP apparently a top 1% poster over on our Concord. It's a real Concord diehard right here. The top response reading, "It plays nothing like Concord. I personally don't like the movement or shooting at all, and don't get all the hype and praise it's getting. If you want similar gameplay to Concord, Destiny 2 is your best bet. But the PvP in that game is basically unplayable, unfortunately, but the PvE is still good." They'd get a response that reads, "I feel like the majority of the hype and praise it's getting is just because it's one of the first good online Marvel games to come out in this entire period of MCU box office domination, which is waning. And a lot of people who are unhappy with Overwatch trying to signal boost a competitor, the game itself feels pretty dang on."
So this is something that this guy doesn't understand. They think that because of the MCU that it's blowing up, which there's probably a part of it, but it's also the people who are the MCU fans early on that don't like the current trajectory of the Marvel universe and how it's just kind of like doing whatever the fuck and it's all garbage. But then they see something like Marvel Rivals, which goes against that MCU fucking cut cloth, and it's like, we're going back to the roots, and that's where they want. They want Marvel to go back to its roots. So this is them finally getting the game they want. That's more like the comics and less like this fucking slop we've gotten. There's a reason why Marvel fans are actually wanting to play this and not wanting to watch MCU movies anymore, and that's something you're missing. This isn't about just This isn't about Overwatch or the people who like the MCU. It's about the people who are sick of both of these things. They're sick of both of these things, and they see that there is something that is the good Overwatch, the good days of Overwatch meeting the good days of Marvel, and you're getting the best of both worlds.
Polished and on balance compared to Overwatch and even Concord. And this different top comment says, "Why did Concord have to die and Marvel Rivals gets to live? It's not as fun as Concord by a long shot. I hate this timeline." They'd get a response that says, "Well, charging $40 when literally every hero shooter is free was a very big misstep." A response to them reading, "Being free wouldn't save the game, buddy, and Marvel Rivals isn't having success because it's free."
I mean, it definitely is causing to its success. I mean, being free is definitely going to have more people download your game than it not being free. Also, the fact that Marvel Rivals came out and was like, our season passes are able to be accessed whenever. It's like against these fucking predatory bullshit that we've had in the industry forever, where you're trying to grind a season pass before it ends, just before you lose everything and then have to buy another one. It's like, oh, it's doing the same thing that Halo Infinite did, and that's one of the best things that Halo Infinite did was when a battle pass was done, you could keep playing on that battle pass. I think it started in the Master Chief Collection, but I've always liked that. It's like, oh, you can work at your own pace toward what you want to finish instead of being on this weird restrictive timeline that is like, oh, well, I lost that timeline, so it looks like I'm starting over. Here's my $10 again. It's like actually decent monetization in a game. There's a lot of things that Marvel Rivals did really, really well on top of being a free game.
Chain of comments then especially set off the Concord diehards, who began to go full aggro and get very defensive, which you'll see coming up. As user Pass Foundations would respond to that other user Desfert, where Desfert had essentially said that Concord being free wouldn't have saved it. Pass Foundations responding saying it's one of the main factors of its demise. And that's where we get Desperate saying, yeah, let's say it was free to play. Now tell me the difference, how much longer would it last? Even when the game had a free beta, it only hit 2K and kept dropping players. Basically kept the same issues from the beta, and then it died only a few weeks later. It doesn't make a single difference to paint a ship with other colors. If you don't fix the holes, it'll still sink. Desperate then going on to list a number of reasons why they believe Marvel Rivals is successful, and concluding by saying, seriously people, stop thinking free to play is the answer for everything. It just shows how clueless you guys are. Yeah, some of them might be clueless, but I think a lot of them are also in complete denial. During the whole
but free to play definitely helps. I mean, if you would have launched the game free to play, at least more people would have played it, or launched it on like PlayStation Plus or whatever, and had people like at least download it that way, you would have had more of a install base and more people playing it just because they can and it doesn't cost them money. And then maybe get people in the ecosystem. It's not going to fix all of the issues of Concord, because the list of Concord the list of the issues in Concord are about as long as the list of issues with Redfall, where it's just kind of identity list slop. That it was going to die any day after it released, but at least free to play would have given it some chance to walk or more crawl before its death.
Concord saga, the whole Concord arc, we saw so many of these defenders ignoring, for example, the whole like DI stuff that Concord had. And it wasn't even that they didn't recognize it was there. It's like they wouldn't admit that it was there. They would just do everything they possibly could to dodge how DI negatively impacted Concord, because hey, they gotta do everything they can to defend that corporate policy. Very pathetic. Then we get this hilarious cope that says, Concord failed not because of its design, gameplay, price, or quality as a game, but because it became a target in a culture war. From the moment it was announced, discussions about the game were...
No, since the moment it was announced, this is not true. When I first saw that announcement of Concord, before it was ever announced that it was a hero shooter, I was so excited to see that PlayStation was going to have like a FPS game. I thought PlayStation was going to bring a strong story-based FPS game to their world, and instead it ended up being the most generic, world fucking shatteringly boring goddamn hero shooter. Like, if Concord would have had, like, a well-crafted campaign and then, like, the multiplayer be a hero shooter and the campaign was actually really interesting and, like, dynamic, it could have had a different take. I mean, if you would have given these characters some sort of identity other than identity politics, it might have had somewhere to walk, but instead you were like, let's follow a trend, but not understand what made that trend successful. The reason that people played Overwatch is because it had sexy fucking characters. Because Team Fortress already existed. So it was just Team Fortress on console with sexy characters. Like, and that's going to make people play it, dude. I'm sorry, dude. Anybody who, plays that game that's like, was a dude was like, no, Diva's hot. I'm going to play as the robot bitch. It's very fucking simple why it won. And, like, the reason it didn't become, like, this cultural thing until right before the game launched and people saw the characters and saw that they were all fucking fat and gross. Like, and the characters were all kind of just either boring or fucking obvious political inserts. It really had nothing else going for it other than that. It had pretty generic combat. It had pretty generic map design. And if you're a hero shooter, you can get by on pretty generic combat and pretty generic level design if your characters are interesting. The hero part of hero shooter is the most important.
Dominated by negativity. Critics labeled it as dead on arrival, woke, or trash before there was even a beta or gameplay.
There was, if we're talking about, like, actual critics, this is why I hate when people say critics instead of just said the internet. The internet labeled it that. Critics fucking soyed the fuck out over this game.
This constant negativity overshadowed the game itself. Despite being fun for those who actually played it, few people gave it a fair chance. The backlash was so intense that even liking the game invited ridicule. In the end, more people criticized Concord than actually experienced it, which made it impossible for the game to succeed. This person is not taking into account how most people didn't even want to play Concord because the hero roster was terrible. It's like, oh hey guys, here's a bunch of losers you can play as. Yeah, gee, I wonder why that didn't work out. Here's another funny exchange with this user Irate Pirate who responds to the OP. Once again, the OP had asked if any of the R Concord people had played Marvel Rivals. Irate Pirate saying, yes. In fact, my original plan when Concord was coming out was something like, I'm bored of Overwatch, I'll play Concord until Rivals comes out. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. It's pretty fun. It's not on Concord's level in my opinion, but it's fun. User Icy Ruins responding saying, Concord's level was so high that the game shut down immediately. A different user, Lum Sauce, then chiming in saying, y'all are still here. Figured you people would have stopped hanging around hating a few months after the game shut down, but I guess life moves slow when you have nothing worthwhile in it. And Icy Ruins responds saying that this post was recommended on their homepage. I also find it funny that Lum Sauce is talking about people still being here on the Concord subreddit, when that can also be applied to the Concord defenders. The game lasted all of 2 weeks, and has been dead for months. And then hopping over to the Marvel Rivals subreddit, we've got this post that says, talk about bad takes, and then posting an image from Outlet the Gamer and an article that they made titled Marvel Rivals has too many heroes for its own good. You're probably familiar with the Gamer. Many channels, including mine, have talked about takes from that outlet.
Dude, the Marvel Rivals needs more characters. I don't care what anybody says. I want to see Deadpool. I want to see Cable. I want to see every Marvel character eventually in that game. I want it to be I want the character select to look like the fucking character select from Lego Marvel. That's what I want it to look like. I want to play as fucking Howard the Duck. I want more characters. And if you I feel like that's what's cool about this is you can just keep adding characters periodically, and there will still be Marvel fans that want to play as their own character. And at a certain point, you'll have so many characters that nobody will even give a fuck about balance because they get to play as their favorite character. It's honestly brilliant because they have so much to pull from.
They're the same type of gaming journalists who often try and call gamers problematic, and they're constantly getting offended at things. They were also being laughed at a few weeks ago during the Veilguard arc, as they made a number of articles attempting to defend Dragon Age the Veilguard, only to then later make one where they kinda walked that back a little bit after they saw the public opinion on the game was negative, and nothing these journalists could do would change that opinion. As many gaming journalist outlets, for example also IGN, did attempt to defend Veilguard and influence the public in a way that they completely failed at. And now the Corpo Journos over at The Gamer are attempting to insult Rivals and prop up Overwatch.
Well, here's the thing. It's not even just to prop up Overwatch. They're salty. They're salty that Concord fucking failed. Because Concord was going to be... If Concord would have succeeded, they could have owned all of the chuds on Twitter. They could have owned all the chuds, and then they could engagement bait for the rest of their existence. But because a game that is actually opposing everything they believe in terms of where they want the gaming industry is succeeding, then they're out there trying to engagement bait off of that. They know that they're going to get the engagement, and they know that they're going to get people mad about it, and then they're happy because they're making these people mad. It's very simple, their fucking grift that they're running on. It's not a very complex situation in the slightest, actually. And I just hate that this is where the news outlets are at, because you're not news then. You're there because you have a fucking bone to pick, and you want to create as much angry engagement as possible.
That Rivals should have taken more time with its roster, and making a very weird argument that Rivals has released too many heroes already, saying that people don't care about playing them well or trying to learn what their abilities are, which is obviously a really weird thing to say. Obviously people want to play their heroes well. They then doubled down on the argument that Rivals has too many heroes, and in the lead up to its full launch, more additions were confirmed for the roster, making it hard to determine who I'd main, and if I would even have enough time to learn all their ins and outs before release.
You don't need to learn all their ins and outs. That's what makes a game like Overwatch in this so great. You don't need, your normal fucking person is going to pick 1 or 2 characters they're going to play as. They're going to have their main character. And the cool thing about Marvel Rivals is you're going to pick your main character because you like that character. You have a previously experienced time with that character. Like me with the Punisher. I used to read Punisher comics. So obviously I'm going to pick the Punisher because I have a pre-existing attachment to that character, and I'm going to play as him and I'm going to have fun. And a lot of other people play as Punisher, so I have to first thing I do as soon as the match is going up is swing up to the Punisher and try to get him, because my whole thought here is I want to play as this character. Let's fucking do this. I'm hyped about it, and I want to play the fucking fuck out of this character. And then if he's picked, then I pick somebody else that is my secondary or something. Somebody who I played as Moon Knight. I think I played as Moon Knight and Wolverine. I think those were the 2 I played as. I played as Venom once too. But usually I try to go for Punisher as quick as possible. Oh God, I play as Star-Lord a lot. And and I think I played as one of the chicks. I can't remember which one. But it's like you have this pre-existing idea of what you want to play as, and you pick them and you play as them. And the more characters they add, the less you're going to think about like being professional at all these characters. Because I think that idea of adhering to the pros is such a dumb thing. Because here's the thing: games don't get a professional community unless the game is good and has a bunch of people playing it already. The pros will come in like naturally and gradually to your game. If the game you build it, they will fucking come, and they will come hard. So the idea that we need to make a game just for the pros to play and it has to be a perfect balancing, and that makes it not fun for the regular Joes, because they like finding like the character that's OP as fuck to play with. And then when you get into the pros, they'll just ban that. They'll put in a ban method on like ranked or something where you can ban a character. It's pretty fucking simple. And then they can keep adding characters, and eventually people will just play the character that they fucking like the best. To me, it's not complicated at all. But these journalists don't fucking get that.
Turns out that I didn't, and now the sheer act of playing Marvel Rivals is daunting. Once again, I find myself comparing it unfavorably to Overwatch. Yeah, this just sounds like a massive skill issue. I only started playing Rivals like 2 weeks ago, so not only did I not play the beta, but I also started it late technically. Don't find it daunting at all, it's a fun game. And I'm not even a great player, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know plenty of people probably didn't play in the beta, and they're also having fun with the game, so I don't...
Rocket Raccoon I played as. He's fucking fun as fuck to play as. I haven't played as this chick. I saw the sword and thought she was a melee build, and I said no, but the fact that she's shooting fucking ninja stars makes me want to play as her.
Get what they're trying to say here. Except it seems like they're trying to make any excuse they can to try and insult Rivals and prop up Overwatch. Continuing, they say, Overwatch turned each new hero into a legitimate event. You would follow each update and tease with fervent anticipation, waiting to find out exactly what role they might fulfill and what they would look like. That won't happen when Rivals add Sentry. Every new hero was unexpected, but for Rivals, it feels like we already have to temper our expectations after NetEase jumped the gun on its A-listers. Yeah, so I think this
isn't just the A-listers, though. You have so many more characters. Like, Deadpool is not in the game yet. And Deadpool's a big character. There's way more, like, Cable's a big character, and he's not in the game yet. Like, there is tons and tons of characters that have yet to even be touched that probably have, like, big communities out there that you can... And you can have, like, character drops at all times. There's a bunch of niche, like, Jeff the Shark. Who the fuck is that? But he's in the game. So, like, there's so many, like, eras of heroes to pull from. Like, Beast isn't in the game. I don't think Beast is in the game. But, like, there's so many characters just from the X-Men they could introduce slowly. And we would constantly still have stuff. Like, a lot of the MCU guys are there, but there's more to still pull from. And it's crazy to think that this is it.
It's just terrible.
This just shows that you have no fucking clue what you're talking about, and you wanted to write an article because you were mad that Concord failed, and you don't want this game to win because it has sexy characters, and Overwatch is moving away from that.
I'm actually a huge fan of the Sentry. He's probably my favorite Marvel hero. I like how he's a very flawed character. I also like the whole Void thing. And then when he merges with the Void, I think that's one of the sickest character designs in all of comics. Regardless, the point they're trying to make here is that Rivals has already used the A-listers in comics, so the next heroes they release aren't going to be very interesting or compelling, essentially, which is beyond absurd. There's still so many A-list heroes that Rivals hasn't added. Comes off like they just don't know what they're talking about. Like, here's some, not including the...
I didn't fucking pre-watch this. It's common sense, dude. You don't need to even pre-watch this shit to know that this is fucking common sense and to know exactly what they're going to say, because this is what any fucking normal person would say. This is what anybody who has, like, half a fucking brain cell or two sticks to rub together to make themselves fucking nipples hard to make this jump to reality. The problem is a lot of these people don't live in reality and they're just fucking stupid.
Coming heroes in season 1 and not including villains, but we got like Cyclops, Kitty Pryde, Rogue, X-23, Blade, Jubilee, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Iron Lad, and Professor
Dude,
X.
How did I fucking forget Blade? Blade is one of my favorite characters of all time. If this game would have launched with Blade, I would have played Blade over the Punisher.
And they end by saying, I could be proven wrong, but right now I'm not very excited about new heroes to come to Rivals, because we are already dealing with an excessive roster. There is no moderation and a desire to give players a temporary power fantasy, instead of easing them into things. This will only hurt the game in the long run, and feeling that way right now isn't a good sign. Well, considering that it's journalists from The Gamer saying all this stuff, then it probably is a good sign, actually. Generally, if you do the opposite of what these sort of gaming journalists say, then you'll be very successful. But yeah, that's it for this one. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. If you enjoyed the coverage, please consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate.
So this is, yeah, dude, he was 100% on facts. This was all facts. This was a really, really fucking good video. I agreed with almost everything, and I know that like when I had a video similar to this, like the South of Midnight one, I was very, very, very defensive for South of Midnight. It's just like we have both of these games out. We can do an actual comparison. We can look at the problems that Concord had. It's not like we're talking about something that doesn't exist in reality. So I can look at this and be like, yeah, here's the actual facts of the matter, and I can make that jump. I don't like the speculation bullshit that kind of was started by the quartering. The quartering really was the streamline on that. I think that the conversation needs to be had about the DEI and bullshit in games, but I think that it needs to. I think that by showing people aren't gonna buy these games when they come out is one important thing. Like when the game comes out and you see that it's bullshit, don't buy it. I mean, it's fairly fucking simple. And that's the cool thing about, like, South of Midnight is I'm going to play that shit on Game Pass, and if it's fucking mid, I will make a video on why it's fucking mid, and I will complain about each of those aspects. But I don't want to be the guy that's coming out here before the game is when we don't have any information other than one shitty community lead talking out of their ass. But, like, here we have both examples. These journalists can look at both examples and then look at what made the other game successful and say, let me ponder on that a second. Oh, point A to point B, they didn't make sexy characters like Overwatch. They had boring characters in a hero shooter. That's why it failed. Okay. Well, what made Marvel Rivals succeed? One, it has characters that have pre-existing IPs, and there's a ton of them. There's a fuckload of them, and the game released with a lot of characters. So a lot of people who were like hoping their favorite character was in the game now have one of their favorite characters in the game. My favorite Marvel character is not in the game, Blade, but Punisher was somebody I read a lot of, and the fact that Punisher was in there, I wanted to play it just to play as Punisher. Then you have the other fact that the characters are attractive. There we go. We have attractive characters. So there's like, I already said attractive characters, but then you have an art style that's incredibly, Overwatch had an incredible art style that was like drawing that people were like, oh, look how cool Overwatch looks. But then you look at Concord and it was boring and generic. There was nothing interesting about the character models in Concord. Even, I'm not even talking about them in like the terms of like the woke shit. I'm talking about just artistically, they were boring as fuck. They did not look interesting. It's the same reason why Marvel Avengers failed, because there's nothing interesting about the character designs. It's not that, oh, they weren't hot enough or whatever. I'm sure some people said that, but to me, I saw Marvel's Avengers and I said, lame. They look boring as fuck. They look like shitty versions of the movie characters. It's like, why would I buy a shitty movie tie-in? But like this, I'm playing it because it looks like the shit that I grew up reading when I was a little kid, you know? I think that's the blatant difference between a lot of the discourse about this shit is like this type of like, oh, this is what happened. These are the points that led here, and this is why the video game journalists are fucking retarded. I think that's all facts, but that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe.